everybody! Welcome to a new edition of Loremaker's Guide to the Galaxy. I'm the archivist, Sherry Heiberg, and if you're unfamiliar with Loremaker's Guide, it's a show where we, the lore team, go over different systems in the Star Citizen universe and give you an overview of their background, their current state, and we explore all the cool secrets that we can tell you. This week we are doing Yulin, so let me just pull it up. I was there for the creation of this, which is part of the reason why I picked it. And there's another reason why I picked it, which, I assume if you haven't found out about it yet, I'm not going to say it, but if you have found out about it, nice. All right, so let's start with just a general overview of the system. This is a Banu-owned system. It's in the Banu Protectorate. For those who don't know, the Banu Protectorate works sort of like a loose confederation of systems. They don't have an overall authoritarian government. They kind of just organized by guild or they protection. They kind of mutually pull resources into a giant protective umbrella. That's more or less the Banu way. They're not too big on laws. They're not too big on authority. But what they are very big on is commerce and guilds, which are known as Suli. And Yulin is rife with all kinds of Suli. It's also a hub for gambling and vice and starship racing and Saddleball, which the Banu are completely obsessed with. So let's visit the star. This is a yellow dwarf. It's very much like our star. In fact, it's the same type of star as ours, kind of a little sister star here. It's about 4.4 billion years old, whereas ours is about 4.6 billion years old. So middle-aged in star years, doing pretty well, looking pretty good. Still got good 5 billion years left in it before it burns out in its way, becomes like a red giant, and eventually a white dwarf. It's a longer process, but I won't get too far into it. It's a good little star. Another cool tidbit about yellow dwarfs that I just remembered is that they're about the third most common star in the universe, so about 7.5%. All right, let us check out Yulin 1. Wow, amazing. Yulin 1 is an iron planet. It doesn't have much in the way of atmosphere. It pretty much has no atmosphere, and it doesn't really have much in the way of lithosphere either. It's just kind of a burnt-out core that's been mined as much as it can be, being so close to the sun. It's got a bunch of craters all over it. Not terrifically interesting. So I'm not going to go too far over this because there's so many more interesting things to talk about in this system, such as the flotilla right here. Now, one of the things that we determined about the Banu while we were creating Banu systems was that there are flotillas of ships in every Banu system that are kind of serve as the commercial hub of the system. Now this is in both systems with inhabitable worlds and without inhabitable worlds. It's not whether or not worlds are inhabitable, it's just sort of a thing that Banu do. They always have these giant collections of ships that are, some are permanent, some are like old space stations that they've converted into places where they can conduct business. Some are, people that go in and out, spaceship people. Spaceship owners that go in and out to conduct business, and they all do their thing here in the flotilla. And I think the flotillas are very interesting and part of what make the Banu themselves. And this flotilla especially is cool because not only is it a hub for vice and commerce, it's also the home for a well-known Suli of counterfeiters who have recently run into an issue with one of the local SO Suli, who's a guild leader, who lives in the Saddleball arena in the system. And I'm going to get to that in just a moment. Now we're going to move on to Yulin 2. This is going to be a brief stop in our Yulin adventure. It's a smog planet. And smog planets are like Venus. They have very thick, very dangerous, very high pressure atmospheres. No, it's not possible to live on them, and no one's really figured out how to terraform them for living. But what makes Yulin 2 interesting is that it has this beautiful rainbow-like atmosphere. I like that a lot, and the Banu have decided that they like it a lot as well, because they have built this incredible Saddleball arena around it. Buloy, the Buloy Saddleball Arena, which is named after the current SS Suli in charge of Saddleball here in Yulin, and her name is Buloy Satukal. And she is currently at odds with the counterfeiters on the flotilla here in Yulin because they have been selling counterfeit tickets to Saddleball games to people who have stopped in the system to enjoy a nice game. Now, all is generally fair between Suli and Banu culture. Like, if you're a good counterfeiter, what you're expected to do is get away with it. You're expected not to get caught. But these counterfeiters are just not up to snuff. They keep getting, people who buy their tickets keep getting caught, and that makes Buloy madder and madder. And so she has begun arresting people who come in with counterfeit tickets and just keeping the prisoner or charging them an incredible amount of money so that they don't offend again. And this is starting to rub the counterfeiters the wrong way because it's affecting their business. So there's high tensions between these two Suli right now in Yulin that may or may not boil over at some point. Hopefully either the counterfeiters will get better or Buloy will decide that, well, I don't know what she'll decide. She'll decide something. She's pretty ruthless. She worked really hard to get to the top of this Saddleball Suli, and she is not about to bend her rules for success. All right, now let's move on to Yulin 3. I'm very excited to talk about this one. While we were building Yulin, one of the things I personally like to do when we're building systems is to research scientifically interesting planets and shove them in as much as I possibly can. This, however, I cannot take credit for. This was Will's idea. We had just been reading about different Kepler planets and theories about what kind of vegetation they might have on the surface, what kind of atmospheres they may have. And we had also done some reading about hypothetical types of biochemistry. And so Will suggested that we make a planet that was ammonia-based in the way that planets can be carbon-based and silicon-based. This one is ammonia-based. It's a hypothetical type of planet where the ocean is ammonia, so the oceans are brown and the vegetation is black. And the world is hot and it's decently high pressure but not enough to kill a Banu. Banu kind of consider this world a charming resort world. It's like a tropical planet where they like to go on vacation and chill out in the ammonia oceans and enjoy walks among the black vegetation. Humans, however, cannot survive in this kind of environment. So the Banu have kindly built an arcology, a sealed arcology, where humans can survive and enjoy some of the charms of Yulin 3 for a price, because these are the Banu. What did you think, it was free? Okay, now let's go over to our next planet, where is Yulin 4. There we go. Yulin 4 is a desert planet, sort of like Mars. It is home to a number of incredible rock formations that are like amazing to look at. Like, picture giant arches of rocks that stretch high up into the atmosphere, or donuts that are very wide or very narrow and wild wind-shaped and tectonic plate-shaped cliff formations. It's breathtaking. Geologists of many species are incredibly interested in it. However, the Banu use it for racing. They use these unique formations as obstacles in spaceship races, to the point where crashes will destroy some of them, making a lot of geologists very sad, although the Banu don't really care that much, especially the racing Suli that's located around here. They've got a few ships surrounding the planet. They are always monitoring activity on it. Human geologists especially are just salivating to be able to get into this planet and study it at all times. But the best they can do is kind of sneak in between racing seasons and study it in little bits and then leave and then come back. Because, you know, human people wandering all over the racetrack, wherever it is on the planet, keep in mind the planet is very large, are in danger of being killed and starting an interplanetary incident, which no one really wants. Well, I feel for the geologists because I imagine these giant rock formations being destroyed by spaceship crashes, and it makes me a little sad. All right, So this here is our next spot. It's the Yulin Cluster Alpha. It is a densely packed asteroid cluster that is also used for racing. This racing that takes place here is more of the unofficial variety. It's sort of a place where Banu go and practice their digs, or practice their moves, I should say, before participating in the more, prestigious or, how would you put it, races that make them better, races that make them seem better. I'll find the right word later. But anyway, the better races that they might participate in Yulin 4. Oh, very fun spot. Very interesting spot. You can meet some cool Banu buddies. Let's zoom out again. Sorry for all the zooming out, but Yulin is just so densely packed with cool stuff that sometimes you lose track of where you are. All right, Yulin 5. Yulin 5 is an ice giant, like Neptune and Uranus. Now, what makes an ice giant different from a gas giant is an ice giant is composed of heavier elements, elements that are heavier than hydrogen and helium. So instead of having a mostly hydrogen envelope like Jupiter does, it has a kind of minor hydrogen envelope, and it's made mostly of elements like carbon and nitrogen and sulfur. They have rock and ice cores, and their mantles are things like water and methane and ammonia, like Yulin 3. They're not as dense as gas giants, but they are usually home to a lot of interesting weather patterns, and Yulin 5 is particularly famous for its incredibly strong equatorial winds. I'm sure some Banu out there have tried to figure a way to make these winds into an interesting sport, but so far no one has been entirely successful. So moving on to Yulin 6. This is the last planet in the system. It's a gas giant, a classical gas giant, very much in the mold of Jupiter. Its atmosphere is mostly hydrogen. It's a massive, massive planet. Casts a big shadow in the solar neighborhood, the planetary neighborhood, either one. You want to be careful when you're around here, because people who have escaped the authority of the local Suli might be hanging out here, and they don't want to make trouble with any of these people, but they certainly wouldn't mind picking you off for profit. So just watch your back. All right, this has been the Banu system of Yulin. It was a lot of fun to make. It's been a lot of fun to talk about. I hope that it was enjoyable for you as it was for me talking about it. Okay, thanks again, and I will see you next time on Loremaker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in the Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.